Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. It's the start of a brand new week, of course. So happy Monday to all of you, and I hope all of you have a great week ahead. But that's not exactly what it is that we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about some of the things that have been happening in the world of sport, whilst all of us were catching up on some all-important sleep. Because let's face facts, the world of sport doesn't really rest. So without further ado, let's just check in quickly and see some of the more interesting happenings in the world of sport that happened whilst we were catching up on some rest. Without further ado, let's get straight to it. And former India cricketer Akash Chopra, well, he's actually raised a couple of more interesting questions when it comes to India's team selection for the West Indies tour. He's in fact questioned directly whether or not or why is it that Suryakumar Yadav is inconsistently picked, and why is it that there's no Arshdeep Singh in the scheme of things for the ODIs. In fact, his exact tweet reads, "And what's the deal with Sky's intermittent selection for tests? Gets picked, gets dropped. Is he considered for the longest format or not? And why no Arshdeep for ODIs? Is he fit?" Now again, both are very interesting questions because even though Sky hasn't really done much, I mean, he's played one test match where he didn't really light the stage on fire. But the simple fact of the matter is his recent inclusion, then exclusion, and then inclusion again is pretty confusing because he was part of the backups for the WTC final. Now doesn't find himself in the scheme of things at all. As for Arshdeep, well, he has been someone who, well, is supposedly being groomed for test match cricket because again, he is playing county cricket as we speak. But nowhere in the scheme of things as far as ODIs are concerned. Yes, we know that there were a couple of ODIs he had played where he didn't really have the best of showings, but if you trust him enough to bowl well in T20 cricket, then it does make sense to maybe back him in ODIs as well. And both are actually valid suggestions in that sense. Of course, whether we get any answers, that's something we don't really know. Another thing related to Indian cricket directly, and this time Rohit Sharma has been called on to show some intent on the field by former Pakistan cricketer Kamran Akmal. Now Akmal, like a lot of Pakistani cricketers, has made quite let's say, the impact on their social medias with his own YouTube channel, where of course he'll share a lot of his own takes. And what he said about Rohit was he didn't criticize Rohit's captaincy, but he did say that Rohit needs to show himself more on the field and be a little bit more like what Virat Kohli used to be. Now Virat Kohli of course was a very different captain in the sense that his aggression was almost constant, and it didn't necessarily translate just when wickets were falling or the Indian team were bowling badly or fielding badly. No, it came through all the time. With Rohit, you do see flashes of aggression, but more often than not, it tends to come through when something wrong happens, and that is what Kamran Akmal says. He needs to be showing himself on the field all the time and lead by example, and that's a criticism that has been leveled at Rohit, that sometimes his shoulders tend to droop too quickly, and that in test cricket he sometimes can be found wanting when it comes to his changes or inspiring his teammates. Again, whether or not this is something that is heard in any quarters remains to be seen, but it does indeed make for some very pertinent advice. Bit more of an interesting news update, and this comes from Ishant Sharma's recent podcast sit down, and he has claimed, and it's a pretty big claim, that he believes Ishant Khan is a better test bowler than James Anderson. Now, of course, James Anderson is closing in on multiple records and has been playing test cricket for what seems like forever. Many people were expecting him to be in the twilight of his career maybe 3-4 years ago, but he's still going strong. Yet, according to Ishant, he believes that Zach, as he refers to him, is the better bowler for the very simple reason that Zahir, a lot of the test matches that he played were in the subcontinental conditions, whereas Anderson, great as a bowler that he is, has mostly had success, or has had a lot of his success at home, where of course conditions will be conducive to the kind of swing bowling that he is so good at. It's an interesting claim for sure in many ways, because again, there's no right or wrong answer in this regard. But the thing with Anderson is that his numbers make him very hard to ignore, even if a lot of them came at home. And truth be told, it's not like he hasn't had success overseas as well. He has. So he's not a one-trick pony, even though there is a criticism that follows him that he's only best in certain conditions. But he's maximized that to the maximum of his ability, and truth be told, has made himself a pretty good career. So maybe, just maybe, it might be time to say that Anderson is the greatest. But according to Ishant, no, Zahir Khan is better. Switching our focus now from the world of cricket to the world of football, and Kalidou Koulibaly, just 1 year after being signed by Chelsea for a pretty big fee considering he's 30-odd years old, has moved on from the club and joined Saudi Arabian side Al Hilal, and thus officially begins the exodus of Chelsea players that, truth be told, has been needing to happen for for quite some time. He's of course one of the many players who will be leaving, and not just leaving, but leaving for a Saudi Arabian club as well. Edouard Mendy, his Senegal teammate, is expected to join him, as is Hakim Ziyech as well. So there's plenty of players who will be making the move to Saudi Arabia. Interesting time really as far as the club is concerned, because they do need to sell a lot of players in order to kind of balance the books, because they've spent crazily for the past 2 seasons. And speaking of English Premier League clubs who have been spending good money but probably in a wiser way, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has admitted that not only does his side's failure to win the Premier League in the 2022-23 season still haunt him, he admits that the side need to strengthen considerably if they really are to take the challenge to Manchester City. In fact, in an interview, Arteta said that losing hurt deeply, because for months we were going toe-to-toe with City and actually emerging on top, but in the crunch moments we were unable to do so. And he also admitted that if we are to actually continue competing with City, then we need to be strengthening the side massively. There's no two ways about it. And truth be told, there is plenty of movement happening in that regards. They're close to signing Kai Havertz from Chelsea. They're close to signing Declan Rice from West Ham United. So there is movement there. Whether or not these signings are truly good enough to take them to the next level, that is something that remains to be seen. But you can't criticize or fault the club for trying their best in terms of getting the players in quickly and ensuring that they are players that the manager specifically wants. Our next news update talks about not Arsenal's title rivals and in fact title winners of 22-23, Manchester City, who are interested in this man right here, Josko Gvardiol. Now Gvardiol, of course, has made a good name for himself over in Germany, where he's been a consistent performer for RB Leipzig. He shot to prominence during the 2022 World Cup as well, at the heart of Croatia's defense. And City are very, very keen to add him, but there's just one very small twist. The amount of money that RB Leipzig are demanding are insane. The reports are that they want well in excess of over 100 million euros, which would make Gvardiol the most expensive centre-back in the history of modern football. Now, there's a reason they're asking for that much money. They had tied Gvardiol down to a new contract, so they're in no real hurry to sell, and their preference would be to keep him for at least another season or two before finally cashing in on him. Of course, if the offer is really too good to resist, and that too good to resist offer is somewhere around the 100 million euro mark, well, then that is exactly what it will take to convince them to sell to City. Personal terms, not a problem. They are agreed with the club and the player. It's just about getting that transfer fee sorted. Switching focus now from the world of football to sports beyond that, and the Indian wrestlers who have of course been protesting in recent times against the misfunctioning of the WFI as well as the president, now taken to social media, posted identical tweets and said that our fight now is no longer on the road, but it will be in the court. So this is the first time really that they've actually hinted at for quite a while now, actually stopping the agitation and stopping the protest, because in their tweet they also said that the government have shown proactiveness, they've taken action, charge sheets have been filed, elections are set to be held, so we're liking the steps that it is we're seeing. However, they did also leave the door open to hitting the roads in protest again if they feel that things don't progress or if their demands are not met. So it does seem like you're reaching the point where the protest is finally coming to a little bit of a close down. But again, that's with a little bit of a caveat. And last but not least, we'll end our news update with this rather interesting news coming in from the Queen's Club. Carlos Alcaraz has won the Queen's Club Invitational. He beat Alex de Minaur in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4, easy as you like. And the young Spaniard not only now highlights himself as being one of the favorites for Wimbledon going into this year's edition of this Grand Slam, but he also reclaimed the world #1 ranking, because he had to win the tournament. Remember, Djokovic was ahead but only marginally, and therefore if Alcaraz had won, he would get enough rating points to be ranked #1, which of course does give him the advantage of even being seeded #1 at Wimbledon, which means he will get a better draw in, of course, from one side, and there is a potential now that it could very well be another Alcaraz-Djokovic final this time, not the semi-final, could very well be in for a final if things go right. And that's it from us from this edition of the Morning Update with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTalk app as well, and please stay tuned to Sports Today for the remainder of the day. We've got plenty coming your way from the world of sport. For now, from my side though, goodbye.